Also served as senior advisor to Trump's campaign. Ambassador, I apologize for the sound issue, the problem there. If you can hear us, of course, I want to talk about, let's talk about Trump's long-term strategy regarding Putin. We've heard so many statements from Trump saying that he does not believe in the intelligence, the U.S. intelligence that has been presented to him so far, that Russia was behind the hacking that potentially influenced the election. You've spoken with him, and you've spoken with the transition team. What is behind the skepticism?
I don't know. I think there was some questions. Certainly the FBI was on one side, the CIA on the other, and so forth with respect to that hacking. But I don't think these same questions are going to arise with the recent hacking of the system in Vermont, the utility. That looks very troubling to me. I've been studying and working on this issue for 10 or 12 years now, and I don't think the same kind of questioning is going to come up because of the nature of the hardware, software that they've found, and that is extremely dangerous. The Russians have hacked successfully into Ukraine's electric grid, into Georgia's electric grid, and this is some of the same software and hardware that they used in those hacks. And the grid isn't just a matter of convenience. It's a front on which one can conduct asymmetric warfare, and the Russians like that asymmetric warfare, and they're doing it. And that means if you take down the electricity part of the infrastructure, you've taken down a lot of the rest too, water purification, food deliveries, and so on. This is a very big deal and ought to be treated as such.
Ambassador, a couple of questions, of course, following up on that is how close did they get to disrupting the electric grid? I know that it was not actually connected to the electric grid, so you say this is very dangerous. Do you see the potential for them actually disrupting the electricity, the power system in our country, first of all, that Russia could do that? And secondly, do you think in light of that, Donald Trump will take this more seriously than he has the hacking of the election?
I'm not going to speak for him, but it is a different issue than what we were facing back with respect to the Republicans and Democrats and getting emails and so forth. This is a world-class problem with respect to the grid. Part of the problem is that the electric companies have not been helpful on this. Their lobbyists have worked hard to keep us from doing a lot of what was necessary and fixing the grid. And the vulnerabilities are substantial, and this is some of the same type of software and hardware that was used against Ukraine. So this is a wake-up call, and people should treat it as such, not as a political issue involving children's parties at the Kremlin or any of that. That's way down the list of importance.
Will you make that message clear to Donald Trump? You have his ear, or at least you have the ear of his transition team. Will you tell him that, look, this is very different, this is very serious than some of the intelligence that he has dismissed over the election?
I've worked for 4 presidents, 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats. I've never told anybody what I say to them and or what they say to me. So what I will say is that my view, and I will express it to anyone who wants to hear it, is that this is an extremely dangerous and difficult situation, and we have to go to general quarters, as they would say in the Navy, right away and get the resilience of our electric grid especially fixed. And it requires presidential leadership. President Obama has given 0 leadership on this issue for the last 8 years. This would be something that any president would need to focus on.
I want to ask a specific question, then we'll move on here. What can President-elect Donald Trump do? You said that the electric companies have resisted this kind of those safeguards that are put in place. Can he force that? Is that something that can be done through executive orders, or is that something that has to go through Congress?
There's legislation pending that several leading members of the Congress have pushed, and that has only one bill has passed. There's a lot more to do. There are several very able congressmen and senators who have this issue in their sights and have been working to try to get the legislative authorities changed so that we can take action. But so far, only one bill has passed, and it makes a start, but it's not nearly enough.
Let's talk a little bit about Trump, some of his statements here. I want to read a tweet. This is from a former CIA analyst, Nada Bakos, who says that as a CIA officer, if I had a colleague talking like Trump is about Putin, I would think he was turned. Ambassador, I mean, if you heard somebody in the CIA, an officer, perhaps lavishing praise on Putin in a similar fashion that Trump has, would that raise eyebrows? Would you suspect or believe that there was something that was suspicious about that? I mean, what would be your reaction?
It depends on what the Russians are doing. I negotiated with them in 4 sets of negotiations from 1968 through 1991. And on 3 of those negotiations, they were stubborn, they were cantankerous, they were non-yielding, they did not work effectively toward a reasonable agreement on nuclear weapons. Full stop. I headed a negotiation with them in 89, 90, 91 on conventional armed forces. They worked carefully with us. They were thorough. They were reasonable. They negotiated tit for tat, and we made compromises. We worked out what I think was a very fine treaty that's now been countermanded by Mr. Putin. But anyone who had talked to me during those 3 years I was negotiating with those then still Soviets, and I would have said something very much like what Donald Trump has said, which is that we're working with them well, things are going well, etc. So it depends on what the Russians are doing. They can either behave reasonably and give us all a reason to want to work with them, or they can behave unreasonably, such as by using cyber war to attack our electric grid.
Well, the last thing that Putin has done is that, of course, he says he's going to delay any kind of response regarding Obama's sanctions here. But there are other intelligence analysts who say they believe that he's not, he's trying to pretend he's Santa Claus here, but at the same time, he didn't expel those U.S. spies in Russia because it would be a lot of work to expel them, that they already know pretty much where they go, what kind of conversations they have, what they're eating. If you got rid of them in retaliation, they'd have to start all over with a whole nother group of American spies. So that this is really a very unique and smart strategy on Putin's part, that he's really playing Trump. Do you think that's true?
I think it's shrewd on his part, but not particularly for that reason. I think the main thing by inviting American children to the party in the Kremlin, by not requiring a withdrawal of some 35 Americans from Russia and so forth, I think he is attempting to look very reasonable and like someone one can work with, etc. There may be an element of truth in some aspects of that, but mainly I think he's being quite clever, and he's playing chess, and we look like we're still sitting there trying to play checkers.
Thank you so much, Ambassador, for your analysis. Really appreciate it. James Woolsey.
Good to be with you.
Thank you. Have a good